The night it happened, the temperature dropped to 41 degrees. I remember standing in the hallway of my mother-in-law's house, holding my daughter's hand, staring at a door I had never been told to open. Behind it, the garage. Concrete floor. No heating vent. A single light bulb hanging from the ceiling like a question nobody wanted to answer. My daughter was 6. Her name is Lily. And she looked up at me with those brown eyes, not crying, not complaining, and whispered, "Is this my room now, Mommy?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because if I opened my mouth, everything I had been swallowing for 2 years would come pouring out. And I wasn't ready. Not yet. But what my mother-in-law didn't know, what nobody in that house knew, was that silence has an expiration date, and mine was about to reach it. 3 years after that night, the woman who made my daughter sleep on a concrete floor stood on my doorstep. No coat, no pride, no options, and she asked me for a roof. I met David at a pharmacy, of all places. I was 24, Lily was 2. I was picking up children's Tylenol because she had a fever that wouldn't break, and I was doing that thing every single mother knows. Holding a baby on one hip, scanning the aisle with tired eyes, doing mental math on whether I could afford the name brand or had to go generic again. He was behind me in line. He didn't say anything charming. He didn't try to be smooth. He just looked at Lily, looked at me, and said, "She has your eyes." That was it. That was the whole beginning. David was kind in the way that quiet men often are. Not performative, not loud about it. He remembered things. The kind of milk I liked. The fact that Lily was afraid of the dark. He never once made me feel like I was a burden for already having a child. And in a world that constantly reminded me I was starting behind, David made me feel like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. We dated for a year. He proposed on a Tuesday. No ring yet, just a question over scrambled eggs. I said yes before he finished the sentence. There was only one thing about David that made me pause. Not him, his mother. Her name was Gloria. Gloria was 61 years old, retired from a career in real estate, and lived alone in a 4-bedroom house on Weston Drive. The kind of house that looked warm from the outside but felt cold the moment you walked in. Everything had a place. Every cushion sat at an angle. Every surface was polished to the point where you were afraid to touch it. The first time I met her, she smiled. But her eyes didn't. She looked at Lily, this beautiful, shy 2-year-old hiding behind my leg, and said, "Oh, you brought her." Not, "How adorable." Not, "What's her name?" Just, "You brought her." Like Lily was an accessory I should have left in the car. I told myself I was reading too much into it. Mothers-in-law are protective. She'd warm up. People always warm up. David told me the same thing. She's like that with everyone at first. Give her time. So I gave her time. We got married 7 months later, small ceremony. Lily was the flower girl. She walked down the aisle holding a basket of petals that was bigger than her torso, and everyone laughed, and it was the happiest I had ever been. After the wedding, David suggested we move into Gloria's house, temporarily, just until we saved enough for a down payment. Gloria had the space, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a finished basement. It made sense on paper. On paper. The first month was fine. Gloria kept to herself mostly. She cooked dinner on Sundays, pot roast, always pot roast, and she was polite in front of David. She even bought Lily a coloring book once. I put it on the fridge like a peace treaty. But small things started to surface. Things I couldn't quite name. When David's nephew and niece came to visit, Gloria lit up. She baked cookies. She read them bedtime stories. She called them my babies. But when Lily walked into the room, the warmth dimmed. Not disappeared, dimmed. Like someone turning a dial just enough that you notice, but not enough that you can prove it. Lily's toys were always in the way. Lily's shoes were always by the wrong door. Lily's laughter was always a little too loud for the house. One afternoon, I overheard Gloria on the phone with her sister. She didn't know I was in the hallway. "It's fine," she said. "David's happy. I just wish he hadn't taken on someone else's responsibility." Someone else's responsibility. She was talking about my daughter. My 6-year-old daughter who drew her a picture every single week and slid it under her bedroom door because she was too shy to hand it to her face to face. I stood in that hallway and felt something tighten in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter. Something that felt like the first crack in a wall you've been leaning against. But I said nothing. Because David was happy. Because we were saving money. Because I had spent my entire adult life making things work, and I was not going to be the one who couldn't make this work too. So I smiled at Sunday dinners. I cleaned up after myself twice as thoroughly as anyone else. I made sure Lily was always polite, always quiet, always invisible enough to not be a problem. And Gloria. Gloria watched. The way someone watches a guest who stayed a little too long. The house on Weston Drive was quiet, and I mistook that quiet for peace. It started with the bedroom. When we first moved in, Lily had the smallest room upstairs, right next to ours. It had pale yellow walls and a window that faced the backyard. Lily loved that window. She would sit on the edge of her bed in the morning and wave at the squirrels like they were neighbors. But 6 months in, Gloria's oldest son, David's brother, Marcus, announced that his twins would be spending summers with Gloria. 2 kids, 11 years old, and Gloria needed a room for them. She didn't ask me, she told David. "Lily can move to the basement room, it's perfectly fine, the twins need a proper space." David came to me that night, and I could see it in his face. The way his jaw was set, the way he wouldn't look at me directly. He already felt guilty, which meant he had already agreed. "It's just for the summer, Jess. 3 months. And the basement room isn't bad, it has a window." It had a window the size of a shoebox, and the ceiling was so low that even I had to duck near the edges. But I moved Lily downstairs. I bought new sheets. I hung fairy lights. I told her it was an adventure, her secret hideaway. And Lily, because Lily was Lily, believed me. She smiled and said, "It's like a castle under the ground, Mommy." Summer ended. The twins went home. But Lily never went back upstairs. When I brought it up, Gloria looked at me like I had said something unreasonable. "The room's already been set up for when they visit again. It doesn't make sense to keep moving things around." David said nothing. That was the pattern. Gloria would make a decision. David would absorb it. And I would stand there, holding my daughter's hand, trying to figure out when compromise had turned into erasure. Then came the winter. The basement room was always cold. I knew that. I had bought a space heater and extra blankets. But in January, the heater broke. I told Gloria I needed to replace it. She said, "Those things are fire hazards. I don't want one in my house." I said I would buy a safer model. She said no. I asked David. He said he would talk to her. He never did. For 3 nights, Lily slept in that basement room with no heat, while the rest of the house stayed at 72 degrees. On the 3rd night, I found her curled up in a ball under 4 blankets, shivering. Not crying, just shivering, quietly. Like she had learned that making noise about her discomfort wasn't something this house allowed. I carried her to our bed that night. Gloria said nothing the next morning, but I saw her face. That pinched look. The one that said, "Boundaries." I bought the heater anyway. Gloria unplugged it while I was at work. That was February. In March, the garage conversation happened. Gloria had decided to convert the basement into a family entertainment space, a TV room for when all the grandchildren visited. She presented it at dinner like a gift to the whole family. New carpet, new couch, a mini fridge. "But where does Lily sleep?" I asked. Everyone looked at me. David, Gloria. Even Lily, who had stopped eating her mashed potatoes. Gloria folded her napkin. Slowly. The way someone does when they've already rehearsed what they're about to say. "There's the garage room. It's attached to the house. It has a door, a window, and it's perfectly fine for a child who's only sleeping there. A garage room. She called it a garage room, like adding the word room made it something other than what it was. A concrete box where she kept storage bins and a lawnmower. I looked at David. David looked at his plate. "It's temporary," he said. "Just until we find our own place." Temporary. That word again. The word that had moved my daughter from the second floor to the basement, and now from the basement to the garage. Each time a little further from the family. Each time a little closer to invisible. I spent that weekend cleaning out the garage. I painted the walls white. I put down a rug. I hung Lily's fairy lights again. I made it as warm as I could with what I had, and the night Lily moved in, she sat on her little bed, a mattress on the floor, because there wasn't room for a frame. And she looked around at the concrete walls and the single light bulb, and she said, "Mommy, do the squirrels live here too?" I almost broke right there. But I didn't. Because breaking would mean admitting that I had failed her. And I wasn't ready to do that, not because I was strong, because I was terrified that if I started crying, I would never stop. What made it worse? What made the anger settle into my bones like something permanent? Was watching how Gloria treated the other children. Marcus's twins had matching bedspreads and a bookshelf Gloria had ordered from Pottery Barn. David's sister's son had his own drawer in the kitchen for his favorite snacks. When they visited, Gloria cooked their favorite meals and took them shopping and called them sweetheart. And Lily? Lily, who had never once complained. Lily, who still drew Gloria a picture every week and still slid it under her door. Lily, who said, "Thank you, Grandma," every single time Gloria put food on the table. Lily slept in the garage. One night, I couldn't sleep. I walked downstairs and opened the door to the garage and just stood there. It was 41 degrees outside. The garage walls did nothing. I could see my own breath. My daughter was asleep, her little body curled tight under blankets that weren't enough. Her fairy lights blinking in the dark like they were trying to make up for everything the adults in this house had failed to provide. I closed the door. And something inside me, something that had been quiet for 2 years, finally woke up. Not with noise, not with rage, with clarity. The next morning, I made a phone call, not to a lawyer, not to a friend, to my older sister Denise, the one person in my life who had never once told me to give it time. I stood in the driveway with my coffee going cold, and I told her everything. The bedroom, the basement, the garage, the heater, the 41 degrees, all of it. Every single thing I had swallowed over 2 years came out in 15 minutes, and when I was done, there was silence on the other end. Then Denise said 5 words. "Come home. Both of you." Denise lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. She had a 2-bedroom apartment, a steady job as an office manager at a dental practice, and a spare room with actual walls and actual heating. It wasn't luxury, but it was warm, and it was safe, and the door had a lock that my daughter could close whenever she wanted. I hung up the phone, and I knew, the way you know something in your body before your brain catches up, that I was leaving. But I didn't leave that day, because I had learned something from Gloria, something she never intended to teach me. I had learned that silence is a strategy, and I was about to use it better than she ever did. That week, I started making moves. Quiet ones. I called a staffing agency. I had a degree in accounting. Finished it online the year after Lily was born, studying between midnight feedings and part-time shifts at a grocery store. I hadn't used it. Not really. I'd been doing bookkeeping for a small firm in town, 25 hours a week, enough to contribute but never enough to stand on my own. The agency connected me with a firm in Charlotte that was looking for a full-time junior accountant. Starting salary, $47,000. Benefits. A signing bonus of $1,500. Not life-changing money, but life-starting money. I interviewed over the phone during my lunch break, sitting in my car in the parking lot of the grocery store where I used to work. When they offered me the position, I accepted without hesitation. Then, I opened a bank account. Just mine. Not the joint one David and I shared. A new one, in my name only. I moved my next paycheck there, then the one after that. I started packing in secret. Not suitcases, that would be noticed. I packed memories, photos of Lily off the fridge, one at a time. Her favorite books, a few each week, slipped into a box in the trunk of my car. The fairy lights could stay. I would buy new ones. David noticed nothing. Gloria noticed nothing. Because people who are used to you being invisible don't notice when you start disappearing. It took me 4 weeks to get everything in order. 4 weeks of smiling at Sunday dinners. 4 weeks of tucking Lily into that garage bed and whispering, "Not much longer, baby." 4 weeks of watching Gloria hand out cookies to every grandchild in the house except mine. On a Thursday morning in April, I waited until Gloria left for her hair appointment and David left for work. I loaded 2 suitcases and 4 boxes into my car. I buckled Lily into her car seat. She was holding a stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was a baby. The ears were worn down to almost nothing. "Where are we going, Mommy?" "Somewhere warm," I said. I left a note on the kitchen counter. 3 sentences. "David, I love you, but I love our daughter more. She deserves walls, not a garage. I hope you understand, but I'm leaving either way." I drove 6 hours to Charlotte. Lily fell asleep 20 minutes in, the rabbit pressed against her cheek, and for the first time in 2 years, I breathed like my lungs actually had room. Denise was standing outside her apartment when we pulled up. She didn't say anything. She just picked up Lily, still half asleep, carried her inside, and put her in the spare room, the one with the real bed. And the heater that worked, and the window that wasn't the size of a shoebox. Lily woke up an hour later. She walked into the kitchen where Denise and I were sitting, and she looked around, at the warm light, at the soft couch, at the plate of cookies Denise had made. And she said, "Is this our house now?" "For now," I said. She nodded, and then she smiled. Not a big smile, just a quiet one, the kind that told me she understood more than a 6-year-old should ever have to. David called that night. He wasn't angry, he was confused, which, honestly, was worse. "Why didn't you just talk to me?" "I did, David, 14 times. You talked to your plate." He went quiet. I could hear Gloria's voice in the background, sharp, indignant, saying something about disrespect and ingratitude. David didn't respond to her either. "I'm not asking you to choose between me and your mother," I said. "I already know the answer. I'm choosing Lily, that's all." We separated officially 2 months later. No drama, no courtroom battle. David was decent enough to not contest anything. I think he knew, somewhere deep, that his silence had cost him something he couldn't get back. I started the job in Charlotte. $47,000 a year became $52,000 after my first review, then $58,000. I was good at what I did, detail-oriented, organized, reliable. The same qualities that had made me tolerate Gloria's house for 2 years turned out to be exactly what a growing accounting firm needed. Within 18 months, I was promoted to senior accountant. I moved Lily and me into our own apartment. 2 bedrooms, 2nd floor, a balcony where Lily kept a small herb garden because her teacher said basil was easy to grow. Lily was thriving. Her school in Charlotte was better. Her grades went up. She started sleeping through the night, something she hadn't done consistently since the garage. She joined a swim team. She made friends. She laughed louder than I had heard her laugh in years. And every night, before bed, she would walk to her bedroom door, close it, open it again, and close it one more time, just to hear it latch, just to feel the click. Because she finally had a door that was hers. 3 years passed. 3 years in which I rebuilt everything from the ground up. 3 years of early mornings and packed lunches and parent-teacher conferences where I sat in the front row by myself and felt proud instead of ashamed. 3 years of watching Lily grow into a girl who spoke her mind and laughed without checking the room first. And then, On a Wednesday evening in October, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Lily was at swim practice. I had just gotten home from work, still in my blazer, shoes kicked off by the door. I opened it without checking the peephole, something I almost never did. And there she was. Gloria. She looked 10 years older. Not in the dignified way that some people age, in the way that means something went wrong. Her coat was thin for October. Her hair, once styled every 2 weeks at the same salon on Weston Drive, was pulled back in a rubber band. She was holding a purse I recognized, the same one she carried 3 years ago. The leather was cracked now. She didn't say hello. She said, "Jessica, I need to talk to you." I stood in the doorway. I didn't invite her in, not because I had planned to be cold, because my body made the decision before my brain could. The last time I had stood in a doorway in this woman's presence, I was staring at a garage. "How did you find me?" I asked. "David." Of course. David. Who I hadn't spoken to in 8 months. David, who paid his child support on time and sent Lily birthday cards but never once visited Charlotte. David, who was still, as far as I knew, living in his mother's house. Except he wasn't. Gloria told me the story in pieces. Standing on my doorstep, hands clasped in front of her like she was at a funeral. Marcus, David's brother, had moved to Seattle with his family the year before. Gloria had expected him to stay close. He didn't. His wife had gotten a job offer, and Marcus chose his wife. Gloria took it as betrayal. Then David. David, who had finally started therapy. His therapist helped him see what he had refused to see for years, that his mother's house wasn't a home. It was a system, and he had been a part of it. 6 months after I left, David moved out. Not to Charlotte. To a small apartment across town. He didn't tell Gloria in advance. He left the same way I did. A note on the counter. His read, "Mom, I should have said something 2 years ago. I'm sorry I didn't. I need space." Gloria's sister stopped calling after an argument about money. Her friends, the ones from the real estate days, had drifted away years ago. The house on Weston Drive, the 4-bedroom monument to order and control, became exactly what it had always been underneath the pot roasts and polished surfaces. Empty. Then came the finances. Gloria's retirement savings, which she had always described as comfortable, turned out to be thinner than anyone knew. She had been supplementing her income by renting out the basement, the same basement she had converted into a TV room after displacing my daughter. When the tenants left and didn't come back, she couldn't cover the mortgage on her own. She lost the house in August. Foreclosure. The bank gave her 60 days. 60 days. The same number of nights Lily spent in that garage before I carried her out. Gloria stood on my doorstep and said the words I never expected to hear from her mouth. "I don't have anywhere to go. I'm asking if you could help me. Just for a little while. Just until I figure things out." Just until. Temporarily. I looked at her. At this woman, who had called my daughter someone else's responsibility. Who had unplugged a heater in January. Who had looked at a 6-year-old's drawings slipped under her door every week for 2 years and never once hung a single one on the fridge. And I felt something I didn't expect. Not rage. Not satisfaction. Not even vindication. I felt tired. Tired of carrying the weight of what she had done. Tired of the version of this moment I had imagined 100 times. The one where I said something devastating and closed the door and felt powerful. Because standing here, looking at her cracked purse and her thin coat, I realized that power wasn't what I wanted. I had never wanted power. I wanted Lily to be warm. And Lily was warm. Lily was more than warm. Lily was safe and happy and growing and strong. Lily had a bedroom with a door that latched, and a balcony garden, and a swim team, and a laugh that could fill an entire apartment. Gloria hadn't taken that from me. She had delayed it. And the delay was over. "Gloria," I said, "I'm not going to let you into my home." She blinked. Her mouth opened, then closed. Not because I hate you. I don't. But this apartment, every room in it, belongs to me and my daughter. She has a bedroom that I chose for her. She has walls that I painted. She has a heater that works and stays plugged in. And every square foot of this place exists because I decided that she would never sleep on a cold floor again. I won't compromise that. Not for anyone. Gloria's eyes were wet. She nodded slowly, like the words were landing somewhere deep. But I'll help you find a shelter that has openings. And I'll call David tonight, because he should be part of this. And if you're willing to do the work, I'll make sure you're not on the street. That's what I can offer. She didn't argue. She didn't plead. She just stood there, holding her cracked purse, and for the first time in all the years I have known her, Gloria looked like someone who understood what it felt like to be told that the space you're standing in isn't yours. I closed the door gently. I called David. He picked up on the second ring. I told him his mother was in trouble and that it wasn't my problem to solve, but I thought he should know. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Thank you, Jess." That night, after swim practice, Lily came home and dropped her bag by the door and said, "Something smells good. What's for dinner?" And I made her favorite, chicken Alfredo with extra Parmesan. And we sat at our table, in our kitchen, in our home. And Lily told me about how she finally nailed her backstroke flip turn, and how her friend Mia's birthday party was going to be at a trampoline park, and how her teacher said her essay about courage was the best in the class. She didn't know about Gloria. She didn't need to. Because Lily's story was no longer about the people who made her small. It was about the life she was building. And it was warm, and it was bright, and it was hers. I think about that garage sometimes. Not with pain. Not anymore. I think about it the way you think about a storm you drove through. You remember the rain. You remember how tight your hands were on the wheel. But you also remember that you made it through, and everything on the other side was dry. Lily is 9 now. She still does that thing with her door, closing it, opening it, closing it again, every single night. I asked her once if it was a habit or a game. She looked at me, very serious, and said, "I just like knowing it works." And I thought, isn't that what all of us want? A door that works, a room that's ours, a place where the cold can't get in. Gloria found a room eventually. A church program helped her into transitional housing. David visits her once a month. She sends Lily a birthday card now. Just a card, nothing more. And Lily opens it and says, "Thank you," and puts it in a drawer. Not on the fridge, not under anyone's door. Just in a drawer, where it sits with all the other things that are acknowledged but no longer needed. Some people hear this story and ask me if I forgave her. I don't think forgiveness is the right word. I think the right word is release. I released the need for her to understand what she did. I released the hope that she would apologize in a way that matched the harm. I released the fantasy of the perfect ending, the one where the villain kneels and the music swells and everyone cries. Real life doesn't work like that. Real life works like this. You leave, you build, you heal. And one day, the person who made your world small shows up at your door, and you realize that your world is so big now that they barely fit in the frame. The universe keeps score. Not with punishment, not with revenge, with distance. And sometimes, the greatest justice isn't what you say when they come back. It's the fact that you don't need them to.